Easily man of the match for me.
Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, chaps. Welcome to the Green Arrow Podcast, proudly now sponsored by Sorare, the revolutionary new fantasy football game where you can win tickets to Premier League match by entering and winning our Sorare Premier League Mini League. If you enter for free via our exclusive link in the description below, in addition to your standard free cards, you will get a limited free card to enter into your team too. And on top of all that now, we're also now giving away weekly prizes. So we're giving away Premier League tickets and limited cards every single game week if you feel the highest score of the week. So jump on, have a go and see what it's all about. It's completely free to play. The very best of luck. And don't forget, the winners get Premier League tickets. On to FPL. And after a crazy week or so, we have seen some massive scores on the board, including yours, Mr. Hopcroft. Do you want to talk us through your week?
Yeah, I've had a good week. I mean, where do we start? I think firstly, I think the Green Arrow being on a Thursday night might be in jeopardy next season because I'll be going to see European football by the looks of it. So
the way they're going at the moment, mate, they're absolutely
the way it's
flying.
going, yeah,
flying.
It's looking good. So touch wood. So that may that continue. But yeah, I'm going to start off with an apology to Mr. Solanke following last week. I think I went a little bit too far. And, you know, to be fair, he come good and he did the impossible. He scored without touching the ball, which I thought was incredible.
Impressive stuff.
So it was impressive stuff, wasn't it? So, you know, he really should have had, 4 points, but I think he got away with one there. But anyway, you know, he definitely, it's clear he didn't touch it. But anyway, on to my game week. So, yeah, it was good. So I got 146 on bench boost. I think my bench boost, the players that I selected on my bench was genuine anyway. So I had Raya with 8, Martinelli, who I wouldn't have started, in 5, Kane, another single game weeker, on 7, and then Botman on 9. So what do we say is 29 points? So yeah, very pleased with that.
Good.
I was disappointed with the Bruno and Shaw blanks, but you know, you can't have everything. At one stage, I was hoping to achieve the feat of having every single player return, but you know, that's I don't think that's ever going to happen. So yeah, fairly good, fairly happy. Captain Rashford as well, so it's good that he got his goal last night. Should have gone Watkins really, but maybe I'll do that this week.
Yeah, good stuff. We'll visit the Spathometer in a moment because there's going to be some interesting chat there, I think. But I think it's fair to say,
don't you worry about that.
I think it's fair to say you have definitely smashed your bench boost shift, Adam. So very, very well played indeed. Rich, great to have you back. How are you? And what colour was your arrow in double game week 29?
Hi, Fergie. Yeah, good. I'm fine, and yeah, got a green as well. Into the top 4K now, so highest rank of the season achieved through the bench boost. So yeah, chasing Ben, but he's still long in the distance. But I'm pleased with the result. I sort of played a bit of a safe bench boost. I think, you know, I bought in the United pair, same as Adam, but you know, kept Kane, kept Saka just as long-term holds. So I was never going all out for the big score. Felt like I've hidden in the peloton a bit, if I've been honest. Yeah, pleased with that. 138 minus 4. I think, you know, I'm quite happy with that, and still got options to go a little bit different as a result of that, which we'll get onto later in the pod. So yeah, happy with the overall rank position. Playing it a bit template, playing it a bit safe, but I kind of feel that's the way to go where I'm ranked. So. All good.
Absolutely, mate. So hang on, let me get this right. You're heading for is it your 16th or 17th consecutive top 50k finish now?
It'll be the 17th.
17th.
Yeah.
And your 9th top 10k finish? Or 10th?
Yeah.
9th?
Nine.
Pretty impressive, Rich. Absolutely flying.
Yeah.
3,800. Optimal team. Everything looking good. Very, very well played, sir. Very, very, very jealous indeed. Great stuff. There's a bit of debate. Oh, sorry. You scored 27, I think, on your bench boost, which again is a definite.
Yeah, well
smash.
above what was expected. Yeah, happy.
Well done. I scored 137 minus 4. Brought in Bowen, as I said I might do last week. I ummed and ahed over it between Bruno and Bowen, and I went for Bowen. There was a kind of inkling of blank game week 32 in there as well, because he'll play in that and Bruno didn't. I think I said last week I didn't really fancy Bruno that much anyway. I don't think, I know he scored the brace a couple of weeks ago, but overall he doesn't really seem to play just in that position anymore where he's getting those constant chances like he used to. So happy with that, which is good. The debate I've got, because I didn't actually set my bench in terms of what would be a bench boost. I just picked my players and it just randomly did it. And I picked my captain, which was Rashford. So on my bench, it shows I've got Shaw and McAllister, for example, which I obviously definitely would have played. So my bench looks a bit sparse, but I would have played Shaw, obviously. I wouldn't have taken a -4 to get Shaw in just to bench him. And I would have played Saka as well, which he is in my 11. And we were debating this just before we came on, because Adam, you think I wouldn't have, but there's no way. Like, what did Saka score the week before? 18 or 19 pointer at home. 18 pointer at home. There's no way I'd put him on the bench.
I think your bench should read. I'll give you Raya 8 because Kepa got hit as well.
Oh, thanks.
I think it should be Shaw 1.
No way.
Henry 3 and Saka 1.
I'm sure you bloody would. Yeah. No.
Maybe let's talk about that when we go to the Spathometer in a minute.
I think if I'm being honest, I would have benched Henry.
Yeah.
Botman, and that. The other one, I'm really not sure. I wouldn't have benched Saka. I would not have benched Saka. There's no way I'm putting Saka on the bench, because that's just asking for pain. But anyway, a big debate they had there. Before we go on to the Spathometer, let's just have a quick look in the chat at what has been going on. Nigel Bennett says 138 after hits, and he's got to play me in the next round of the Green Arrow Cup. We've only got 3 players different. Look forward to that, Nigel. Good stuff. Josh Hall is in. Kinger got 127 after a -8 hit. Went for Bruno. Matt Stevens 130. Josh Hall 138. Julian 145 -4. Absolutely flying everyone. Gianni is in. Kaiser Sose 127. Chef got 140. Gianni got 139 -4. Says bench was disappointing. I would say though, like, I do think if you scored anything over 18, like 16, 18 points on your bench, it's a decent week. It is a good bench boost, that is. Over the years, we've all had them where, I remember Adams, where he played his bench boost and both keepers were ruled out and stuff like that. So
that's right.
It's like 18 points is pretty good. Jack B.
Just one point. I mean, it's so often that you get a player in your 15 who doesn't feature at all, and so the main achievement is that everybody plays at least a minute, right? So we managed to achieve that. There wasn't a complete absentee, because that completely ruins it, doesn't it? That takes it down by one player or 2 matches almost. So it works out well for an appearance perspective, at least.
I think there was I think you're right, Rich, and there was an element of luck given that with the internationals and how players that travelled to Australia started both games, so it worked out. It couldn't have really gone better for anybody that had the strategy of wildcarding in 26 and bench boosting. And I think setting yourself up for that 27 as well, that strategy has worked really, really well, I think.
Yeah. Ross Johnson's in. He says, I've just spaffed. Michael Brooker said, Solanke got me to 133.
Well done, Dan.
Dan Megan's in. We got a packed lobby usual. Thank you so much all for joining us. Redditor is in, who runs this channel. Says, Rich on fire, good man. So many amazing scores. Just one violin moment. I haven't got the violin music to hand, but regular listeners, FPL Fozzie and FPL Kahuna, say violin please 101 forgot to hit the bench boost, as did FPL Fozzie. So those two guys forgot.
Yeah, it's an easy one to forget to actually activate, isn't it?
You talk about it
we've
for
had
weeks and weeks.
Several content creators have forgotten to do it in the past as well.
They
don't manage to actually activate it. So
unbelievable. It's just one of those things where I don't think it's obvious on the FPL site that you've actually activated it. It's like I think there's a slight color change, but not not a lot, is it? It can be missed. Let's have a quick look then at the Spathometer, which we've updated. Now I think I've been generous to us all potentially here. Be interested to see what the chat says. But we've got Adam bench boost, a 29-point bench boost, 100% smashed. Well done. And off the back of that, I've changed the wild card in 26 to smashed as well. I think that this overall period, you were just
gone to VAR. That's good.
Yeah, it's gone to VAR.
Gone to VAR.
So
overturned.
So you think you said that you went from roughly 300 and something rank in Gameweek 25?
303 to 85k. So
this period,
4 weeks. That's excellent.
This is what we talked about in the pod with Ben, wasn't it? In Gameweek 26 was this is a season-defining period. This 4 weeks, you will move up if you play it properly. And that's exactly what happened. So yeah, I think that's probably fair to say for yours, Adam. Rich, if you're happy with that.
I'm happy to definitely give it based on his rank. Yeah, that's absolutely. Yeah,
and the same for yours as well. So 29 smashed it, 27 points, wildcard 26.
I'm okay with this. I think you're being overly generous on the wildcard. I played it very safe, and my rank hasn't really moved much. But my objective was to stay where I was, so I could say it's at least a meh.
How can you not say you didn't play a wildcard at the right time when you're ranked at nearly 4K with an optimal team? It's just
I think
it's the game within a game, right? It's rank management as well. This is the game, and I know everyone hates that term, and I know everyone says you should try and score as many points as you can, but rank management.
No, absolutely. I haven't taken any risks. That's the point.
It's a massively undervalued part of the game, which any successful FPL manager will tell you. So,
all right, well. Fair enough.
Yeah. On mine, I've left my free hitters in the bin for 25 now because I did wildcard in 26, which kind of, eradicated my well, it didn't eradicate. I scored net 9 on free hit, which is probably not successful. I say that though. It's going to be funny now.
Not successful. Have we got another word for not successful?
Adam, you wait till you're going to free hit in 32, and I'm going to play 8 players, and I'm going to outscore you, and I'm going to pee my pants, and that'll be one of the weeks when Adam's got work. So sorry guys, I've got work tonight. I've got a meeting I can't get out of. We'll see. But yeah. But I put mine as bench boost smash.
Spaff.
Oh, I'm spaffed. I have not spaffed my bench.
Well, yeah, your bench boost is contentious though, isn't it?
Well, I think I scored 20 points, which I was thinking about this.
That's good.
In the context of the game week, it probably is not as high as others, right? Like, 28, 29. Yeah, but in the context of would I have taken 20 points? 100% I would have. So I think in previous seasons and looking at it, I think with a bench boost that, if you'd have got, 8 to 10 points, I would probably have said that's probably underwhelming. 8 to 10 points is underwhelming. You get a few twos and maybe one return. I think anything between like 10 to maybe 16 and 18 is reasonable. I think that anyone would, if you scored 16, 18 points, I think anyone would be. I think they would take that personally, because that means all your players have played. They've all done something, and so 20 to 21, I'm quite happy. I think contextually it doesn't look as good as other scores, but overall I think I'm happy. So it'd be good to hear what the chat says, whether they think it's meh or smashed. But I'm happy. I'm up to 107k, my highest rank of the season. I'm over the moon.
How did you do? And I think I'm up versus 27. But how did you do against your 27 bench? That'll be interesting to see if both of you were up.
I only had.
It was quite a close call, I think.
I only had Odegaard, so I wouldn't have. I think I would have scored about. I'll double check, but I think I would have only scored about maybe 15 or 16 points. Actually, I can.
Oh, okay.
I can check now.
So,
let me check. 3. Oh no. Maybe not. 7, 9, 15, 18. I beat it. And I beat it
but
anyway.
no hit. So, I don't know.
All right.
Oh my God.
16,
26.
What did you? How did you do it?
26. I got 26 in 27. So there we are.
But I
Virtually
think
the same.
Yeah, but and that's why because I think Ben Crellin did bench boosted in 27, didn't he? So I think there wasn't much in it,
No.
but I think the
that
strategy.
Gabrielle goal was 14 points.
It did, yeah, exactly. But I think the strategy, even so, to wildcard and bench boost in either 27 or 29 has worked out well. And whichever one you went for, I don't think it really mattered too much.
And
so well done to everyone.
I think a massive shout out to Ben Crellin, because on that Game Week 26 pod, he spelt all this out for us, right? Like he played it all out for us. And he and we took a lot of stick after the Liverpool result in 26, but overall, it's definitely worked out. So, enough looking back, and let's look forward for a bit now, because we've got the fixtures up now for the next 5 game weeks up to double game week 34, and there's some interesting things to think about for those with free hits left and without free hits left. And firstly, Rich, do you want to just talk us through your general thoughts, musings, and what keeps you up at night for the coming game weeks?
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, we're still, for those of us in this wild card 26, 27 type group, we're still in the part of the game where the stagger is unwinding. Effectively, we're coming through to the end of the taper. But we're now well set up for game weeks 30 and 31, but we've got a bit of a problem with all the players we bought in game week 32, because the FA Cup results in the last round did kind of go to prediction, and we now have blanks for Man United, Brighton, Manchester City and Chelsea, I think, in game week 32. And we've all got an awful lot of their players in most of our squads. So the logical thing is still to then execute the final part of the chip strategy and free hit in game week 32 because of those 4 blank teams. And then use remaining free transfers to build towards a lot of doubles in, or as many doubles as you can in game week 34. So that is the strategy we laid out, and we've still got about 4 or 5 game weeks to go before we find out how we've done overall with that. However, and we'll either get onto that now or in a minute. I do think, depending on how your team is set, how much you went for it in game week 29, there is an option to, slightly, not U-turn on it, but slightly go off at a tangent and think about saving that free hit now, and navigating your way through game week 32, and playing the free hit instead in double game week 34. Just look at the size of the scores. The average scores across, the engaged managers are all in somewhere between 120 and 150 points in that double game week. I can imagine that with Liverpool doubling, City doubling, United doubling, and 3 other teams also offering enablers, and Brighton as well, that we're going to get a similar kind of high scoring 140-point game week in game week 34. So there is an argument, just a logical argument, that playing a free hit in that week is likely to return more points than navigating through a difficult blank game week in game week 32. Just look at those 2 things in isolation. It could be a 35, 40-point average that week, and you've used your free hit instead of optimizing it for a massive last hurrah on the double. So it is team specific, and I'm not saying I'm doing it. I just think there is still an argument to at this point to reconsider.
I think I'd add to that, Rich, a really important point as well. Of a team you would be free hitting into in game week 32, you wouldn't have any Man City players. Talking about quality of players and form, right? You wouldn't have Man City, you wouldn't have Man United, you wouldn't have Brighton, and and Chelsea. So, those first three definitely, we've all, there's a lot of options from all those teams. They're the teams who are scoring the majority of points in FPL at the moment, right? So the players you'd be looking to bring in are like, a Leicester player home to Wolves. Do you really trust James Maddison at the moment? A Palace home to Everton. You're going to bring in bloody Edouard, or there's not masses of upside, I don't think, in 32, because the blanks are the teams who are scoring all the points. So I just I double down that a bit. I'm trying to do it so I can talk Adam into not free hitting in 32. So I've got a chance of catching up with him. But Adam, do you have a counter argument?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, and again, of course, the argument about it being team specific, but I think if you've got 3 Brighton, 3 Man United, you're thinking of bringing Haaland back in, you're going to want those players for the duration. So you're going to want, they've got, I think, particularly sort of 33 onwards, the runs are okay for those teams. They're going to, City and United and Brighton are going to have another double game week in 37. So if you free hit, I just think you're going to have to bring in players that aren't, between now and game week 32, that aren't City, that aren't Brighton, that aren't Man United, that potentially aren't Liverpool. So I just think I don't think it's necessarily 34 or 32 your impact. And I think it's the lead up to 32 and out of 32 as well. So I just think, for me, 32 is the problem game week. I think there is some upside in there. I think Liverpool at home to Forest. Forest are awful. If we know the Liverpool attackers starting, there's holes in there. Liverpool are different at home. Arsenal at home to Southampton. You can have your 3 Arsenal in there, but you don't. But they've got tough fixtures after. They've got the likes of Chelsea, Newcastle, Man City. So again, you don't need to worry about them to maybe game week 36.
Just on Liverpool, I think that people will bring them in anyway because they've got 2 home doubles in 34. So it's different to Arsenal in that you'd probably be looking to take Arsenal players out, whereas Liverpool, you're looking to bring them in anyway.
But you can pick the optimum ones.
Yeah, that's fair.
Liverpool are quite good for early team news. We might find out like Simicast is starting or something to say free hit funds or whatever it is, because Klopp's seems to be a little bit all over the place with his lineups at the moment. So I think because of the game week in 37 and for the fact City have got such good fixtures, for me it makes sense that if you have a free hit to invest in the likes of City, potentially Liverpool as well. I'd hold on Liverpool until their run of home games come, maybe. So I would hold on, but I think it makes sense to invest in City, keep your Brighton assets, keep your United assets who have got Forest next week, etc. And I don't. The teams that are playing, like you said, the teams that are playing in 32 would I want, other than Liverpool and Arsenal, would I want to bring any of them in? Probably not. So, whether you're talking about wasting your free hit, you can just use it for 1 week. And I think looking at a free hit team, I think you can get an okay team. You'd have 3 Arsenal, 3 Liverpool. I think you'd keep Ollie Watkins away to Brentford. I think I'd be quite happy with that. I think the way Newcastle are playing at home to Spurs, I think that's one to target. So I'd keep the likes of Trippier and maybe go Isak or Wilson, whoever's in line to start that. So I think actually the fixtures, I don't think they're that bad. I think there might be a bit of variety actually with maybe the other 5 or players that make up. But
the team. Argument is with all that, a lot of the players you've just said we're going to have in our teams anyway. So we've got Trippier, we've got a couple of Arsenal players, we've got Ollie Watkins. I suppose that's the argument back, is you've got them anyway. You're not going to gain anything by bringing in a free hit. So we're going to have Salah. Like everyone will have Salah home to Forest. He'll be the captain.
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, I just think there's just it. If I was to go for it, I would perhaps sell. I have to sell Bruno Fernandes for Salah. Using the Haaland money in game week 32. So I think to make it work for me, I've kept Kane, kept Saka. They both play 32. Keep Watkins. Perhaps sell the injured Luke Shaw for an Arsenal defender who you kind of want anyway, or there's definitely an option to get an Arsenal defender in for that week. And then if Bruno continues to disappoint and, play in a sweeper type position, then, get rid of him for Salah that week to cover Salah. And then, swap Kane out for Haaland in 33. So it's doable. I'm just trying to indicate that it's doable. And you wouldn't have a bad team in game week 32. You'd cover most of it if you've got a template squad.
But then it means you talked about bringing Haaland in game week 33. I mean, that is brave.
There's no way in the world, Adam.
Southampton away, and then Leicester at home, and his last 2 home games, he scored 8 goals.
You just bench him in 32. Adam is definitely not free hitting in 32 now. By the way, Rich, I will put any money in the dough.
I'm 100% free hitting in 32.
No way. Not after that chat.
And I think the Bruno one, I sort of get, and it's frustrating. But I think when Casemiro comes back, he'll go. He's likely to go further forward. So I'm not too. And there's plenty of options if we need to replace Bruno in midfield. I'm not too worried about that. But I just look. I'm quite happy with how my team's set up at the moment. And if I look at game week 34 and did a wild card team, I'd be happy with 9 double game weekers and 2 singles. And because you got Trippier at home to Southampton, I wouldn't want to have a double over that personally, an extra.
No, there's another 12 points there, isn't it? Basically.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I just think I don't think the teams will be too dissimilar because a lot of people are going to have the same 5 in midfield. So Salah, Bruno, Rashford, March, or Matoma, and McAllister, maybe a City mid, but some combination. Most will have Trippier. Most will have possibly a Brighton defender, a Shaw, a City defender, possibly
Haaland,
and Haaland. Yeah. So I just don't think you might be a little bit down in terms of one player. Maybe a Darwin explodes or something. But
no, I think we're going to be going to VAR, and I think we're going to retrospectively bump up my my bin free hit in 25 to a mare, because the way you two guys are talking, there seems to be very little upside to using a free hit in either one of these game weeks. But we'll do that later in the season.
I'm really looking forward to when we talk about how I've smashed my free hit in 30.
It will be a 3 hit because that'll be your net gain off it.
Just one final point. On this, I think that the reason I started to think about it, in half seriousness, to holding on to the free hit is I expected Tony to have had his last yellow card by now and be suspended by now. And he's still, he's still playing. He's got a home game.
He's still hanging around, isn't he?
He's still hanging around. He could still, get a double figure haul here this week. With Haaland at home to Newcastle, Watkins, as you say, Adam, on fire and with a home game, and with Kane home to Brighton, most of us have got maybe those 3 strikers. You don't need to sell one of them this week. You're only getting Haaland back. Everyone's only getting Haaland back. 1, if they've got the 4.3 million they need, and 2, if because of FOMO, because of fear of what he's done in the past. There's nothing wrong with the strikers we've already got in our teams. So you could defer the issue by rolling the transfer, getting a week's worth of additional information, letting the Bayern Munich game come out of the way, watching Haaland's expected minutes, blah, 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 and then make the decision next week whether or not you hold on to the free hit or not. I'm just putting it out there. It is a legitimate option to consider, particularly if you want to go different, if you're trying to catch a rival, if you're trying to, go different to the template, because like you say, teams are very similar, and if we all keep rolling along the same, we'll all stay the same roughly, won't we? So
we had 2 fairly significant pieces of news from training this morning. I think the Anfield edition, an official account, very well respected, have reported that Salah didn't train today. And Manchester City, the official account, I believe, tweeted that Erling Haaland was back in training this morning. So let's just have a quick chat about Haaland, because Rich, you raise an interesting point there, and it's a tough one, because I think it's easy to say don't have Haaland away to Southampton, who are in absolutely dreadful form, whereby if we had Haaland in our team, he would probably be the go-to default captain option this week. So there's two kind of ends of the spectrum there, isn't there? And Adam, what's your thinking on Haaland? I know, I still think it's like 70% of the game own Haaland. So this is not for everyone, but for those who haven't got Haaland, what's your thinking on him this week?
I'm almost certainly making the Tony move. I can't, unless Pep rules him out. That would be the only thing. But there's pictures of him in training, jumping about 6 foot in the air. I can't. He's the best player in the game by some distance. He's a goal machine. And the thing is, they're going to want him. There's such a key. There's 2 key games versus Bayern Munich, and Pep is going to want him sharp. So I think he plays. I think a lot of people are captaining him. And although I did talk about captaining home players, which I'm not 100% on captaining him, I'll admit that, but I can't see an argument not to bring him in. And particularly Leicester next week at home. He's got 6 hat-tricks at home this season in all competitions. Leicester, even if he plays the first half, you'd be a bit worried, wouldn't you? So,
but he is up against on a 5:30 on Saturday evening. He will be marked by Bednarek and Coletta Carr. So there is that to think about.
Bednarek, he couldn't even get him.
Bednarek, you can't.
Struggled on Villa's bench.
Exactly. It's a nervy one because
it's making me think captain.
Salisu, in all fairness, who I think is a pretty decent defender, is injured. He looks like he's going to be out for most of the season now. Bella Kotchap, who's actually been quite decent as well this season for them, is injured as well. He's flagged a 50%. So they've also got problems in the back line, and it'd be a nervy one not to hold him. But to your point, Rich, which is a good point, and it's one I'm completely on the fence on, because Tony home to Newcastle, Magpies have obviously definitely turned the corner in this last week. They've made a statement with their performances. Brentford probably a bit disappointed last night, but as you know from last week, if Tony scores, he tends to do well on the bonus. It only needs 1 goal for an 8 or 9 pointer. If you do the Tony to Haaland, it means Haaland then would have to get a couple of returns kind of minimum to sort of match him, and make the move worthwhile. We know Haaland plays midweek against Bayern, so if Haaland does start against Southampton, which I think is very likely, I can't see him not starting. He may be pulled off after 60-65 minutes, which we've seen before. Yeah. We also know what he can do in 60-65 minutes, but that does tend to be at home. But he is playing up against, he's going to be man-marked by Jan Bednarek, so we need to bear that in mind. But it's a really tight one, isn't it? And I know your style of play, Rich, it tends to be mine in other games, not so much in FPL, but it's just wait for that extra week, wait for that bit more information, and stuff. But are you seriously not going with Haaland this week? Is that what you're considering?
I'm probably likely to do it if I admit it, isn't it? All I'm doing is putting as you say, Adam, the potential highest ceiling player in the game, not going into the week, not having him you're setting yourself up for the potential for it all to fall apart, and that's what I've been trying to play and guard against. So, but it isn't as cut and dried as I thought it was. We all kept money back for him. We all thought Tony would be, suspended by now. Brentford have actually played pretty well over the last few weeks. They've kept their form going. He's kept his form going. Watkins doesn't need selling anytime soon. So there's lots of reasons to keep the forward line as it is, and potentially roll a transfer. I think it's an easier decision for people who've got a free hit and are going to play it in 32. I think you can bring, if you've got the money for Haaland, then you get him in, and then you carry him through, because you're going to have to get him anyway. If you're trying to navigate 32, I don't think it's such a big issue, because you're just adding an extra blanking player to your squad.
I think the decision, we'll touch on captaincy a bit more in that section, but I think there are a couple of really good captaincy options this week. I think if there wasn't, I think it would be a very obvious move. But two stick out straight away. Rashford home to Everton looks a great option in its own right, as does Watkins home to Forest. Dal in the chat has been nagging for the last however many weeks for Adam just to go on a roll and just say how fantastic Villa have been, which he tends to every week anyway, in all honesty. But hold my hands up. I think I had a dig at Villa last week saying they were an easy fixture, but they're on form. They're fantastic, and Ollie Watkins is probably the most in form forward in the country at the moment. It's fair to say. So home to Forest, who have been absolutely dreadful at the moment, as you mentioned earlier. So is Watkins playing 90 against Forest a very reasonable alternative to Haaland away to Southampton, who probably only play 60-65 if he starts? We're not even sure he starts, right? We know Watkins starts. I say we know. We're 99.9% sure Watkins starts. I do think there's that argument as well. Adam, with your Villa hat on or not, what do you think about those alternative options as to whether you even bring in Haaland? Because I don't see the point of doing Tony to Haaland if you're not going to captain him, personally, because even if Haaland scores a brace, 12, 13 points, which is absolutely great, but I think if you're not captaining him, I don't see it as essential. What's your thinking?
I don't think it's essential, but I just think Haaland scores more points than Tony. I think Newcastle are very good defensively. I'll probably start 2 Newcastle defenders. So, yeah, the other thing on Haaland, bit of random trivia. Bednarak, I remember reading this a while ago, but I think he got the lowest ever fantasy points score in a game, which is -7. Yeah. And he's the only player to lose 2-0. Sorry, 2-0, 9-0 twice.
He conceded
in
the one game. He conceded 9. He scored an own goal and he got a red card.
He got a red card.
Absolutely. Now that's a Violin moment right there for Bednarak.
But I think he could.
Someone found someone who triple captained him, didn't they? And then got -21 or something. It wasn't a spoof or something.
I think he marked Haaland out of the game, so I just wouldn't worry at all about not owning Haaland. I really wouldn't. And if I were you two,
I'm sure, yeah, all right.
I'm not as risk. I'm more risk averse than you guys, so I'm just going to bring him in. But don't bother buying him. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Bednarak will look after you. That's what I think. So. Anyway, what were you talking about? How have I diverted? Are you asking me about Villa to talking
it's
about? It's
normally the way around. You normally turn every other conversation into an Aston Villa one.
I know. But Watkins has been absolutely sensational under Emery, and he's a viable captain pick this week. I think in the expected points chart since Gameweek 17, when we returned after COVID, I think he's actually top. So that goes to show how well he's doing. His finishing's improved. He's done particularly well away from home. And I think he tends to score 2 different types of goals, which almost all of his goals are either off crosses or through balls. And I think...
Yeah, it's the through ball ones, I've noticed.
Yeah, and he had... It is harder when defenses sit deep. So he scored his through ball goals were against City, Arsenal. I'm trying to think who else, Chelsea and Leicester when they were at home. So I think he's found it a little bit easier away from home from space. But that said, Buendia is in such good form. And it's often Buendia who's picking him out for these passes. In the Crystal Palace at home and the Bournemouth at home, he did miss some one-on-ones. So they just have to be a little bit more precise with them. I don't buy into the fact that loads of people have said about he hasn't properly hauled. I don't know. I think that's more randomness. I think there is a haul waiting.
You'd also take 8 or 9 points nearly every week.
You would.
100%.
You would. Yeah. I think Villa win comfortably. It'd just be a question. Maybe there is something in it that if Villa go 2-0 up, Emery's very much about controlling the game and limiting their chances. So I think we'll score at least 2. But I think, it's a tough one because I'm at the game as well. It'd be a bit of fun to captain him. So, Yeah, I'm really torn on this because I think there are three incredible. I mean, assuming Haaland starts and we get the go ahead, which I think will get as good a go ahead as we're likely to get from Pep. I think he's in training. He's not going to tell us if he's going to start or not. Rashford is probably the one. I know a lot of people are talking about Watkins and a lot of people are talking about Haaland. Rashford at Old Trafford is ridiculous. So his scores since the restart are 8, 10, 12, 8, 15, 3, 10. And the 3 was when they were down to 10 men.
Wow.
So I think he's possibly being overlooked.
Yeah.
And we know if Bruno's playing further back, he's going to be their main outlet. And I don't think Everton are particularly great, even under Dyche. Haven't been brilliant defensively. So
not away from home, no.
So I think do you know what I think for me? What I'm finding the most difficult, and being candid here, and it shouldn't impact it. It's the times of the kickoffs.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Really getting to me. I think if the United game was last or on a Sunday,
more likely to captain.
I would captain Rashford. I would captain Rashford.
You don't want your game week done and dusted by 2:15.
Yeah, exactly. So I think. Personally, I think Rashford is the best captain. That's what I'm saying.
Wow.
But the psychology of it, there's a few factors. I could have a lot of fun watching Watkins and captain a Villa player at home, and maybe if I don't do it this week, I might do it in game week 33. But then I'm trying to be as impartial as I can, and I just think Rashford has just been at home has been
very
unbelievable,
consistent.
Whereas Watkins has done okay at home, but he's done better when Villa have had more space to counter attack, which isn't going to be. It isn't going to be at home. I fancy him to score. It's the question: I don't necessarily see a hat trick there. That's the thing. Whereas
he's not really a double figure guy, is he? He tends to just a bit like Kane. He sort of scores one a week. You know, that's basically what he does, which is great. But if you want your 13 to 17 pointer, he's not necessarily going to do it.
He's capable, but I think with the other thing that's in Rashford's favour here. So you've got Haaland's an expected minutes risk and away, but I still think it's a great option. I think Watkins is solid, and I think he'll get maybe 8 or 9 points. But Rashford, I think, being the midfielder, has got if he gets a goal and assist, or it could be 14 odd points if they keep a clean sheet as well. So. Yeah, but it's those kickoff times, and it like I said, it shouldn't have any impact.
Does though, don't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It ruins your whole weekend if you've blown it in the first game.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah, it's a toughie this week. I think I've got it bust on Kane at the moment just because of his consistency, but he's playing Brighton. You don't know how well Spurs are going to do against Brighton, but just is so consistent. Even that Everton game, he didn't really look like scoring till he got hit in the face, and then after that he managed to get himself 7 points. So he just scores every week. He scores some sort of return every week. So do you
think he could be a concussion risk after going down to that? Because it was pretty bad, wasn't it? Pretty bad knock.
It's a bit like being hit by Tyson Fury, isn't it? Really. Yeah.
Let's have a look at a few more options as we go into the coming weeks. Haaland in or out is probably a big debate for those who don't have him, but the lots do have him. There are a few other players. Rich, you pulled out a couple of players to maybe be looking at if you're not free hitting in 32, but you mentioned Grealish, who seems to be absolutely nailed at the moment. Was absolutely fantastic last weekend. Ederson as well, you've pulled out, and you put a shout in for Trent. Maybe not this week for Trent against Arsenal, but looking forward.
I think so. Those three were ones that I came up with. I think Grealish. Know what Adam thinks of Grealish, and I think he's starting to look worth his transfer fee now. Which was considerable. He's really starting to blossom in the team. Foden having his appendectomy is almost guaranteed in minutes over the coming weeks, but I think he'd be earning his place in the side anyway. His performances, his performance against Liverpool was spectacular,
outstanding, absolutely spectacular.
And for 6.8 million, as your second City attacker, which a lot of people will be buying because of the doubles, not just free hitting. They'll be buying him in. I think he's a shout. He's difficult to find a midfield slot, but I'm certainly thinking if I could swap Bruno for him, I probably would do it if it wasn't just because of the double game weeks. So definitely, I think he's one to get in by game week 34 or earlier if you can, possibly even next week. And if you bought Haaland this week and Grealish next week, that would set you well up for the free hit. And then you've got 2 City going into game week 33 ready for the doubles would be a nice thing. If you want your third City, it's a little bit more difficult. John Stones is probably starting to stick out as their best defender now to get, but he may well be preserved for Champions League duty, particularly while City are in the Champions League. So I still think there's big rotation issues in the City defence, but Ederson is obviously the other buy there to complete the trio. So
do you think Ederson's a buy?
Well, I don't think he's necessarily a buy. I mean, if you're wild carding, you'd probably wild card Ederson in, but because he's 5.4 million, doesn't have a lot of saves to make. It disappointed when people brought him in, didn't it? After the World Cup, a lot of teams had Ederson in for weeks and weeks. They didn't keep that many clean sheets. He didn't score that well. But for the run-in with 2 doubles, good fixtures, and no real security in the defence, he possibly makes sense. If you're getting a bit fed up with Kepa, I mean, people are saying Lampard is a Mendy man, doesn't really like Kepa, so his place could be in jeopardy. I mean, Frank hasn't even sat down yet, have you? You can't really start dropping Kepa, can you?
But the fixtures are not too good either. After Wolves this week, Chelsea go Brighton. You'd expect them to succeed against Brighton. Then they blank. Then they got Brentford. Then they got Arsenal as the next few games. So you're probably not going to play Kepa out of choice for the rest of the season.
I think Kepa and Raya have got good rotation, and they both have got Forest to play. I think.
Yeah, but they both play for crappy defensive teams.
Wow, Ray's the top scoring goalkeeper, isn't he?
But in terms of clean sheets, in terms of they just not it's not keeping them.
Sheets. Did you see last week?
Save points. Agree, but exactly. I'm not convinced.
Yeah, I mean, so there definitely could be a goalkeeper transfer in the offing, couldn't there? And therefore Ederson. And Alisson is a reasonable choice.
Alisson, I like Alisson.
Yeah. What about Steele as a third Brighton player for those who haven't got the 3? Because he's what I'm looking at, I think.
Yeah, Steele. Save a bit of money. Definitely he's another option. So there's lots of options for that third Brighton slot. I said Ferguson, another Solanke. We had a few people laughing at the Ferguson choice, didn't we? And up he pops again with a fantastic
he's got so much quality.
Didn't he?
Got so much quality.
If he'd been fit on the weekend, I reckon he'd have played on the weekend as well. He could have really hauled, couldn't he?
Yeah,
it's just the minutes because I think he will mix it up with the games with Welbeck, etc., and Undav and all the others. So, he's a great player though. Love watching him play.
Yep, fair. We've got the predicted points up from fantasyfootballhub.co.uk for the next 2 games, game week 30 to game week 33. This does include the blank in 32. Everyone needs to be aware. But at the top, we've got Harry Kane, who has where our Spurs fixtures are. Home to Brighton, home to Bournemouth, a couple of really nice fixtures there. Then they are away to Newcastle and home to Man United. But Spurs play at home, win 3 of the next 4. I know a lot of people took out Kane last week to enable Bruno and things like that. But he is predicted to do well over the next few weeks. Obviously, it's hard to say with a new manager, but as usually he does what he does, right? Even in the games he doesn't play well, as Rich mentioned, he still finds a way. He finds a way every time. So he's up there. Salah is up there as well. 27.4 points. They're home to Arsenal this week. And then their fixtures really turn. Away to Leeds, home to Forest in that blank game with 32. He will very, very likely be the most outstanding captain there. Away to West Ham, then a double home with 34. So Liverpool are definitely back on the menu for the coming weeks. Ollie Watkins is third. I think we're all huge fans of his at the moment. Maddison is still in there. He's been a bit disappointing. I think those who brought him in for the double this week will have been very, very underwhelmed, considering a lot of the alternatives did really well. Rashford is up there, 20.5. Tony, 19.9. Obviously, just a booking away. Bruno is still up there, 19.9. Darwin starts to creep up again with those nice fixtures on the horizon. Trippier, Trent. Harvey Barnes, who was one of the alternatives for Maddison, obviously returned in the week again and looked fairly decent. Haaland, only 18.8, and the reason for that, obviously he does blank in 32.
X-Mins, is it?
But he's flagged for this weekend still as well, so his X-Mins is probably down at the moment with the flag to about 60-odd minutes, so that's the reason why he's not, he's not so high up. I did notice Danny Ings got benched last night, which is a shame, but Bowen did get the return. But yeah, is there anyone else, anyone in that list you think, I wish I had him on my team for the coming weeks? I think the Liverpool boys are the ones for me I'm probably most excited about, because I think this happened, I think it was 2 seasons ago. Liverpool were dreadful between about game week 20 and 30, and I think the natural wild card point in that point was like game week 31. And we were saying all the way up to it, Liverpool are the kind of team, they can push on and change. But Liverpool, for me, need fixtures to make that change. And I think from 31 onwards, I think if you're quick to get on Liverpool players, maybe 32 onwards, that home to Forest game, if you're quick to jump on Liverpool, you can get ahead of the curve, because I do think by game week 34, everyone will have 3 players, definitely. I think it's worth trying to think about how
I'm not
to get
sure they will.
I think they will, just down to the quality of the fixtures. But and obviously if Salah is fit, but I'm
not sure I'd go to the defenders. They're too expensive and they're just not keeping enough.
I like the Alisson shout. I think the Alisson shout is a good shout, but I think the problem with Liverpool is they'll have Diaz, Salah, Gakpo, Darwin, Jota, and Firmino. Yeah. They'll rotate. So the reality is, and even in a double game week, probably looking at 120 minutes best, aren't you? I mean, we've always seen what happened with Salah this week.
Even Salah got a benching,
yeah. So that does put me off a little bit. So I don't think I'll go all in. I think particularly with the value and of the Brighton guys, I think I'll probably have Salah, but other than that, I'm not sure I'll have too many more.
Okay. Let's take a quick look. We talked about this already, but let's get a name off each of you guys. The best captain for this game week 30 on the Hub Predictor for this week only. Marcus Rashford is top, 7.5 points. Bruno, Maddison, Watkins, Kane, Barnes. Haaland is only at 5.5. Like I say, he's flagged at the moment. Those expected mins are down. But on the poll, it's the other way around. So Haaland top is this, it's this echo chamber of FPL managers who just love a bit of Haaland. 42%, Rashford 33%. I did post the poll late, so we haven't got many votes, but Haaland, Rashford, and Watkins are the front 3, but Haaland out there. Adam, I think you said that you do think that Rashford is probably the best captain this week.
Yeah, it's just that lunchtime kickoff. But if I can put that bias aside, because I'm not committing to it, I think it's just home form is sensational. Yeah. I mean, I've only looked at the Premier League games, but if you throw in the European ones as well, he's pretty much scoring every game at Old Trafford. I think he has the opposite issue to Watkins, where on the road he's not as good. So yeah, I think with the doubts over Haaland's minutes and the fact he's a midfielder, I think he just edges it for me.
Good shout. Rich, what's your thought on captain this week? Who's it on the moment? Oh, you said it's on Kane, but who is it on after this chat?
I think it's a really open week, and I think it's a really good week to have a free swing. I don't think because of the doubt over Haaland's minutes. It's not as it's not a slam dunk as the previous weeks when he's playing, because you might be risking a 1-pointer, you might be risking a cameo off the bench, you might be risking 50, 60 minutes. If City have one of those first halves where they go 3-4-0 up, you might bring him off at half time and just give him a run out and keep him for Bayern Munich.
But that's the problem, isn't it? If City go 3 or 4-0 up and he plays half, who's going to score those 3 or 4 goals?
2 or 3 are going to be his. Yeah, no, absolutely. So I do think Haaland is if you bring Haaland in, difficult to not give him the armband. But nothing wrong with Rashford, Kane, or Watkins as options. They've all got good home games where they can get at least one plus returns. So yeah, but if you want to make ground, go for something. No one's talking about Maddison. Home to Bournemouth. Got to get that haul soon. If he's actually fit, he did limp off, didn't he, or something? But he's he is
cramp,
fit,
I
right.
think. Yeah, cramp.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really torn between Rashford, Watkins, and Haaland. Haaland has obviously all those risks attached, but there's also the risk that he's the most lethal finisher in the world against one of the worst top flight teams we've seen in a long time. So it's he's just got that fact is just there, and it's really tough to get away from. But I think Everton have probably slightly improved. I thought they showed some decent intensity against Spurs on Monday. Obviously got the last minute goal.
I think it worries about me. United. They've scored one goal since they won the League Cup, haven't they? In the Premier League, one
Is
goal.
that right?
In about 5 or 6 weeks. Yeah. I know they had a big win in the Europa League. I'm not counting that, but they've had a series of 0-0s and 1-0 wins. It's basically it's like and a loss to Newcastle, etc. So they're not free scoring. And if Casemiro's still out and Fernandes is not in, where are they going to get the creativity from? Yeah, Rashford will probably still score, but that game's probably going to be another 1-0 with Rashford getting the winner or something. It's not going to be
that's
a
good
ding
point.
in.
It is fair.
I think you've got a ding in the City match, perhaps. Villa, I think, will win comfortably, and Spurs Brighton could be like 2-2, couldn't it? So almost got to look at the score predictions. Think where is that supremacy win going to come from?
It's Man City away to Southampton, sadly. Magic 69 says Maddison will get his haul when he moves to another club. Very good there, Magic.
Good point.
And good point from Stian. Salah is fasting, remember, so that might be why he's not training, but who knows, right? It could be any reason. Lots of really good comments in the chat. Jay says Isaac and Darwin can be gold for the double game weeks. Agree with that. But they are minute risks. Stewie says cheeky Alvarez captaincy. I wouldn't be doing that this week, Stewie. I think it's probably fair to say that Haaland is fit. He plays. Good. Just a good point. Vigard asks about Gabriel Jesus, which you haven't mentioned probably for about 6 months now, but scored a couple last week. Took the penalty, although Saka was off the pitch. So you've got to imagine that Saka would be on them if he's back. Any interest in Jesus?
I think there's a good shout. I think it's only because he hasn't got a double game week to come that people aren't really thinking about using a precious transfer. And obviously, if people are going to make a striker move this week, then Haaland will probably dominate most people's thoughts. But Jesus, if you're looking to gain, most of his 25% ownership is from dead teams who aren't playing anymore. So he's virtually a complete differential if you bring him in now.
Do you think he starts the weekend? Because I think he'll start with Trossard.
Saka's going to come back in, isn't
Saka
he?
will come back in, and you can't. I don't think you can drop Martinelli or Trossard. So I don't know if he starts the weekend. I think they're easing him back as well. I think he's more likely to come on. I just can't see how you take Trossard out of the team at the moment.
Good point.
And Saka will come in, and then Martinelli's pace in behind and those runs. Yeah, but I think he's a good shout, and I think he'll be one that I'll be considering captaining when I smash my free hit in game week 32.
Yep, we will see. Fergie is a punt for this week, so I went for Bowen last week, and I think it's the first time maybe I've done a punt, and I've actually brought him into my team. So he got the assist.
He returned.
He hit the bar in the first game as well, I believe. So he did all right. But this week, I can't remember who is at the moment. Oh yes, I can. I've gone for a team. That's as much as I hate to say it. He has been mentioned briefly in this pod so far by a fan of the team, but this team at the moment are on fire. They are looking absolutely superb. They are playing a team who are in dire straits at the moment. I can only see one way. I can see like a bit of, I would say, a steamroller job, but 2 or 3-0 or 2 or 3-1, and the player.
Emi Buendia by any chance?
Adam. And the player.
I ruined it.
The player. And the player who I fancy to do well this week is Emi Buendia. He is my punt for this week.
I really hope it does, because I'm taking my son. So I don't think it's his third game. It's his fourth game. He's seen Villa win 3 times. He's got 100% record. I can't. That's just, he's set up for disappointment in life, I think, when later on. But he's seen Emi Buendia is his favourite player. So
really?
Really hope.
Yeah.
Really hope. I mean, he was exceptional he was so good against Leicester. So
do you think on game week 32 free hit, he'd be a good shout for a free hit team in 32? Buendia?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, there's so many good. I think there's so many good options, but yeah, potentially. He's playing.
Are they playing 32?
Brentford, so it's not an easy game. But Villa are typically. I mean, they're pretty much averaging 2 goals a game. So they don't necessarily score more than that. So, but yeah, I think that Buendia shout is a brilliant shout, and he seems to have mastered the through balls to Watkins. So yeah, I think your punt.
Oh, go on, sorry.
Your punt is a good one this week.
You good than last week as well. He bloody returned. Alex Michael in the chat says, honestly thought I was talking about Brighton against Spurs, against the team on form, against the team not on form.
Oh,
but no, I've got to be fair. I've got to be fair, Adam. I know he gives some ribbing all season, but Villa look the bins at the moment, and Forest don't, and you can see that being a pretty. I wouldn't say I don't think Villa steamroll them like 4 or 5-0, but very comfortable maybe. Win, like 3-1. A 3-1 exactly. Yeah, totally agree with that. A quick reminder about So Rare, the revolutionary new fantasy football game where you can win tickets to a Premier League match by entering and winning our So Rare Premier League mini league. If you enter for free via our exclusive link in the description below, in addition to your standard free cards, you'll get a free limited Premier League card to enter in your team. And we're also now giving away weekly prizes. This is new for this week onwards. The rest of the season, we're giving away weekly prizes such as Premier League tickets and more Premier League limited cards. So jump on, have a go, and see what it's all about. Just a reminder, it's absolutely free. It's really well worth having a go. Holly Chand of the Hub is 4th overall in the league. She had a massive win a couple of weeks ago as well. Everyone really enjoys playing. It's really easy. It's free. Have a go. See what it's all about. If you don't like it, just don't play. But with Premier League tickets on the line every single week, you may as well just have a go for a bit of fun. If you join with our exclusive link below, you get a free limited card to start off with as well. So make sure you do that. Let's have a quick look at our teams for the coming game week. Adam, we've got your team on screen. What's your plans for the week?
Yeah, I think it looks like Shaw's out, doesn't it? So I'll probably start Botman and go double Newcastle defence. Don't love it, but I mean, they've been, if you're going to back a team defensively, Newcastle, they're not a bad one to have. So can't argue with that as a Shaw replacement. Midfield, it's quite tough because I'm forward. So I'm going to be bringing in Haaland for Tony, but it's going to give me a bit of a benching headache. So I'll be starting Haaland, Watkins and Kane, no questions. I'll be starting Rashford. And then I've got to decide, and I'll be starting Matoma as well, because I think out of all of them, I think he's been very consistent. But I've got to decide between benching one of Bruno, March, and who's the other guy? Martinelli. I think I'm starting Martinelli.
I would against Liverpool.
Against
Trent, he's going to rip him a new one.
Yeah, well, exactly that. And he's pacing behind in the high line and all of that. I think I fancy him for that. And I just think with Bruno, he's the sort of player that if I bench him,
get 23 points.
Yeah, and you know, United will get a dodgy penalty and all of this, and he'll yeah. And I just think that even if he's playing deeper, he's still got capability. Or if they're chasing the game later on, they might push him further forward and all of that. So, I think I will start Bruno. The toughest decision for me, and I'll start Kepa over Raya as well, because I think Newcastle scoring 5 the other night looked great. The toughest decision's captaincy. I really like Richie's point on Rashford.
Apparently, according to Joe in the chat as well, Rashford doesn't have a good record against Everton, which I can't ratify, but it may be worth having a look into as well.
But it's it's been quite a short turnaround as well, and they're playing on 12:30. Maybe they'll just try and get over the line with a 1-0. I think without Casemiro as well. So yeah, it's a tough one between Watkins and Haaland. I mean, Watkins would be the fun pick, but
Haaland would be the right pick.
yeah, Haaland's just phenomenal, isn't he?
The thing is, I always think after the event that if you don't go for the obvious pick and then they do haul, you just kick yourself. You just like, why didn't I just go for the of? It's a, you know, it's almost a classic thing of overthinking. Don't get me wrong, I do think Watkins is in amazing form. I expect him to do well, but if you don't go for Haaland and he bags a hat trick against Southampton,
bottom of the league,
you're just like, what am I doing? What am I doing?
Exactly.
Like, why did I try and overthink it? You know, it's.
Yeah, exactly. Why didn't I captain the best player in the league with 28 goals, breaking all records, 6 hat
Against the
tricks this
bottom team
season?
that's bottom of the league.
Who's going to be marked by Jan Bednarak?
Yeah, exactly. So you could see him getting his third 9-0, couldn't you? So yeah, it's a tough one, but I'm probably leaning towards Haaland at the moment. Just
Good stuff. Thank you, Adam. Rich, you've got your team on screen. What are your thoughts?
Okay. Yeah, team's pretty similar to Adam's, actually. Probably a few slight lineup change. At the moment, I think I've got Henry in there starting, but Adam's made me think I've just really gone for the home player. Botman's, obviously Newcastle conceded quite a lot away from home recently, but they are a better defence than Brentford, so I might reconsider that one. Henry hasn't really done much in recent weeks. I've also swapped Kepa in for Raya again, so I've gone for the opposite there and put the Chelsea keeper away to Wolves. That's just because Wolves just don't score much, do they? So bit of tinkering about with that defensive lineup. I've got March on the bench, I think, at the moment, playing Mitoma, and same front three at the moment. I've got the captaincy on Kane, but that's far from decided. I've still got, obviously, the press conference is key for me. If Pep says that Haaland isn't fit to play, then I'll just roll the transfer.
Yeah.
But if he gives his usual sort of we will see type response,
which is what he will.
I'll bring him in. Yeah, yeah. It's really annoying, isn't it? That wish he was just a little bit more honest with people. So yeah, pretty similar. I'm hoping I haven't heard an update on Shaw. I hope it's minor because I don't really want to have to move him on. If he is out for a number of weeks, then not sure what to do with that position. But it doesn't need to be swapped this week, but it probably needs to be swapped next week because if we're going to free hit, we've got to make a transfer.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If he's out, next week is a good time to change it.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Looking at my team, I haven't organised it at all, but I've got Raya in goals, Trippier, Chilwell, either Henry or Botman, same as you guys, Rashford, McAllister, Saka, March, and Bowen. So I've got to pick probably 4 out of those 5, and then Watkins, Kane, and I think my transfer will probably be Tony to Haaland, and I'll probably captain Haaland. I think it's just one of those. It's just easy to weigh things up and then just make a decision on the kind of. I always think in the week there's like a hill of discovery, and then sometimes you start off with the obvious one: Haaland versus Southampton. That's it. You go on this journey and you come to like the top of the hill. With all this, all this mess in your head, and you somehow convince ourselves that there's another pick, and then only by the end of the week, by the time we kind of hit the deadline, we come back down to what we were actually thinking at the start of the week, which is Haaland against Southampton. It's just too obvious. Even though Stewie in the chat just says Bednarek masterclass incoming, I'm not sure about that, but I do think Haaland away to. I think I mentioned this. Just around the kind of mental side of FPL is that I always feel better. If I didn't go for Haaland and he hauled, I would kick myself. If I did go for Haaland and Watkins hauled, I wouldn't kick myself. I just think fair play, wasn't really expecting that. And I think that's the way I kind of look at it, is that what's the worst scenario I would feel, and if I didn't go for Haaland against Southampton and he hauled, I would, what am I doing?
Like
What am I doing?
Like an idiot.
What am I doing? And I think that's what
way.
helps me make decisions in fantasy football and makes me feel better at the end, at the end of the week sort of thing. But so all pretty similar-ish teams and plans. I have got Bowen away to Fulham this week. Could be all right. I'm obviously holding him now through to 32 and for the Dublin 34, so I'll just be holding on to him. But yeah, at the moment, Tony to Haaland, Captain Haaland, I think nothing too exciting. And
I've got a question. I've got a question for you, Fergie. So you've got no free hit in 32. So if you bring in Haaland, I'd assume you'll want Salah in game week 32, which is probably going to mean you're going to have to sell Haaland or Kane. So yeah, I just thought I'd put that out there and see if you'd thought that through.
Not really. I'm not as forward thinking as you guys in this game because I get caught out over planning sometimes and miss short term stuff. So what is it in 32? Kane would be away to Newcastle.
Correct.
I'm comfortable doing that, and then working out another way if I do want all three premiums after that. Working away because I'll definitely want Salah, I'll definitely want Haaland, and I think we've mentioned about Kane's fixtures. Well, actually, they're away to Newcastle in 32, home to United in 33, away to Liverpool in 34. They're not amazing. I do expect them to score against United and Liverpool, but I think the fact that away to Newcastle in 32 is probably an easy switch there for me, and then I'll just solve the problem after, because like we said, pre-international break, if Haaland's injured going into game week 29, it makes things, and we took the points in front of us in Watkins due to that, and it played out like that. I'm not saying it'll play out like that again, but things change so quickly. I think you can overthink, overplan, and then if you don't take the points in front of you, sometimes I think it can hurt you. So I'm just looking at game week or two in advance at the moment. And I got in Bowen with the thinking, because I haven't got the free hit in 32, but those premium players, there's no way I'm not bringing in Haaland just because to get an extra fixture of Kane away to Newcastle in 32, if that makes sense.
Yeah, good point.
Competition time for our YouTube watchers for this week's competition for a chance to win one of our fantastic Fantasy Football Hub mugs, which Rich is proudly presenting over his shoulder. I know you want to do a quick plug as well, and Rich will jump to that now. But please press the like button. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel, and then comment on who will be the top point scorer in Game Week 30. Last week, it was unbelievably Callum Wilson was the top scorer in play, even though he didn't actually start the first game. So there was no winners from last week. Rich, you just want to pull out a bit of merch behind you over your shoulder.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I got sent a set of these. Just put that one on screen so you can see. This is a poker chip, nice quality, nice weight. Poker chip. So FPL merch, or at FPL merch, who's a partner of the hub, create a number of different fantasy league products like trophies and t-shirts and other merchandise that are known to a number of us. So had a little bit of a hand in helping Ross at FPL merch develop these, just with a few ideas. What they are is that you'll see behind me, just below the mugs, is I've created a little Sir Alex Ferguson stand with my my rank history in poker chips behind there. So you get a set that corresponds with the year of your rank, and they're all graded from top 1k, top 5k, top 10k, etc., all the way out. I think it maybe stops at top 250k, I think. But basically, you earn one of these chips for each year of FPL that you played, and they make a really nice gift in terms of like someone's rank history, and then the history of them corresponds to that person's history of rank. So I think they're a really nice product, and just wanted to say thanks to Ross for sending me a set. And if you're interested, give him a shout out at FPL merch. Thanks.
Lovely shout out, Rich. Definitely. And I know you'll be bringing along one of those to our Fantasy Football Hub golf comp we're going to have
nice
in the
golf
summer.
Ball markers as well.
Markers,
yes, if a little large, exactly.
Absolutely. I've got to remember this week, Rich, to take my antihistamines before we go.
Absolutely.
Last time we went, I had to sleep in the car because I couldn't breathe. It was absolutely awful. But anyway, we move. Top point scorer this week. Adam, any thoughts on who's going to be the top point scorer for game week 30?
Well, Maybe Big Jan, do you reckon? No, I'm not
Bednarek,
going
yeah,
there.
mine.
I'm not going there. Well, if we deduct the minus, there's a chance. I'm going for a Villa player, actually. I'm going to go Tyrone Mings.
Good shout, that.
15-pointer,
Ooh.
goal off a corner.
Boom.
I think it's possible.
I like that. Really good shout. Rich, yourself?
Oh, I thought to pick something a bit off the wall. So from nowhere, James Maddison pops up with a 16-pointer against Bournemouth. There we are.
I'd have gone 15 points for Mings, so you beat me. Yeah.
There we are.
In that case, I'm gonna go for Riyad Mahrez as a bit of a left field punt. I think his place is fairly safe now with Foden out, and I think he's going to score 17 points. So we'll go for Riyad Mahrez. We get the mug, exactly. Just a reminder, our My Team feature that shares your personalised recommended most optimal transfers each week, specifically for your team using artificial intelligence, is live on fantasyfootballhub.co.uk and is free for 7 days to use. Give it a go. It's an absolutely wonderful product, and members also get access to Ben Krellin's exclusive transfer planner, the two best FPL tools combined, free for 7 days. We also have double game week guys, best wildcard teams, and everything else you could possibly want to win at fantasy football at fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. Check it out. The link is in the description below. We also have a Discord server. The link works. I didn't realize that the invite link expires every 7 days. That same link has been in for the last 2 months, but I'll change it now every week. But if you want to come and chat FPL with everyone at the hub, and with I think we've got over like 600 people in there now, all different tools and chats in there. It's really, really good fun. The link is in the description below as well. Again, that is absolutely free. I think it's one of the only very, very few free Discord servers. Come in and chat for free. And we just want to thank you all, as usual, to everyone who joined in the chat this evening. Those who are going to watch it back, and those listening on the podcast versions, your support, as usual, is very, very much appreciated. Adam, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you.
Where can people get hold of you?
On Twitter at Hopta Stats.
And Rich, where can people get hold of you?
At Rich Clarke FPL on Twitter as well.
I noticed, Rich, as well, you've also got a pretty deep stack of those poker chips. You're starting off with a deep stack, whereas most of us all are, and Adam is as well, to be fair. Most of us are starting with like the average. But if you want to see what Rich is doing every single week, you can go to fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, and Rich reveals his team prior to the deadline every single week, the best manager of all time. My handle on Twitter is at @FFH_Fergie. This podcast and video be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel, with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watched, please press the like button. Go on, just give it a push. And remember to subscribe to the channel in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen if you haven't already. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. We're having some really good shouts in the chat, some really good punts in the chat for the top scorer this week. We've had a few for Watkins. Jeffrey likes Martinelli. Stewie is going for Alvarez. He says I'm going for Alvarez. Michael Brooker, Jamie Vardy. That is we haven't heard that name for a while, have we? Whereas Nick Mao also says Barnes. I do like Barnes for this week. I think I put him. I think I put him on the thumbnail. I haven't really got a transfer to use this week really with the Haaland news, but I think Harvey Barnes could be a very, very shrewd buy. Chef likes Trossard. Phil Jones says Semedo is the GOAT. I mean, that's a pretty random comment, Phil. I think you want to lay off the beer. Kinga says Anthony. Ash says Trippier. Keith says Gabriel. We'll be back next week as we look ahead to Game Week 31. In the meantime, the very best of luck for Game Week 30, and may all your arrows be green. Good night, all.